What's up, guys? We got another game with the white pieces against Anish Nandi, rated 1446. Probably the highest rated player we've played so far, and they play Scandinavian defense. They open up with d5. So we take that pawn because we want to lure their queen out so we can hit it with our knight. Free developing move. So he goes back to d7. This gets it out of the way of different attacks. The downside is it blocks his slide square bishop, but maybe he's planning on fianchettoing. So we'll wait and see. We're just going to put a pawn in the center and open up our bishop's diagonal. Stake some claim in his territory. Pass the turn to him. And see how he develops. He starts with the king's knight. It's the most sensible move. We're now going to develop our knight, and he cannot do the usual pin because his queen's in the way. He develops his second knight, puts a little pressure on the center. No big deal. We're going to develop our bishop, control the center, put some pressure towards this king, and we're preparing castling. He moves his queen out of the way. And pins it. It's not a pin because it's a queen. It looks like a pin. And it attacks our pawn, and if we castle, his queen is going to be in our face. That's fine. I wish there was some type of tactic that works here, but the knight's defending the queen, the bishop's defending the queen. I don't see how that's supposed to work. Therefore, I almost want to let him take this and just castle long. That's kind of instructive. So, like bishop development, takes, rook over. Let's go for that. Let's say you wasted your time bringing the queen out in the opening. Then now you're wasting another turn here, and then another turn taking the pawn. I'm gonna move my rook over. You can't take this. You can't take this. You're gonna waste another turn moving your queen again. Let's say here. Now I'm looking here. He's up a pawn, but I'm gonna move my queen. I need to defend this knight still. So I could move it here. I also can immediately strike his knight, but after this, let's move our queen first and prepare castling, and then we can strike his knight or do whatever we want. So we're down our pawn, but we have all four pieces out. So he develops his last minor piece and prepares long castling. It makes a lot of sense. Check. If he takes, check. He moves the king. I get a queen. He gets a queen. I get a bishop. And I'm only up a pawn for that? What? Maybe I could take the bishop. So check here. Actually, how's that supposed to work? I mean, I could start with rook g3, but if bishop takes f7 works. King takes. Knight up, check. King hand goes somewhere. King goes somewhere. And if I start with this, he only has h5. So queen h5. Still double hitting this, but now it's defended twice. I don't want to just win a pawn with bishop takes f7. I mean, I'd like more than that. I get he has to bring his king out, so maybe it's good, but I could also maintain everything I have and do it this way. Now this is defended sufficiently. And I'm going to castle long. Now I'm fully developed. He's up a pawn, but his bishop is nowhere near developed because he still has to move a pawn, which means his rook is not developed. And I already have a rook lifted, so yes, I'm down a pawn, but I'm up a lot in development. He goes e6, trying to open up the bishop. That makes sense. He's not castled. Kind of want to strike the center with d5. I'm going to strike the center with d5, seeing as he's not castled. He doesn't have a rook here, and he doesn't have a bishop developed. I may sack this knight, just to, I mean, at some point we'll see how the game plays out, or I may sack my rook. So he jumps his knight into the center, putting a third attacker on my knight. That makes sense. What's a good attacking move? I could take this. And if he takes back with this knight, I mean, I'm going to sack the exchange. My rook is not actually doing anything anyway. Okay, he takes back with the queen, but I thought that hangs a piece because this defends this. And my queen is actually defended by the knight. So I thought he had to take back the other way. And you can see that. Okay, so he takes the queen. I can recapture two different ways. Let's recapture with the bishop, because the bishop is fast and it can go many different ways quickly. He long castles, but the drawback is he doesn't pay attention to his pieces, and this allows me a fork, and he might just resign quickly. And we almost got into trouble there, but we figured it out. We're going to take the free rook, and then maybe we'll come back and take the other rook. And we're ignoring all of his moves just because there's free stuff hanging, so we're going to take the free stuff. So he goes here, which tries to stop our knight from escaping, which makes a lot of sense. But I noticed that this is now in alignment, so I want to put my bishop here and pin his rook, but his knight's here stopping me. So I'm going to attack the knight. Simple. I'm going to take the knight, and then I'm going to pin the rook. That's my plan. My big brain plan. I'm up 5 points of material. So he pushes the pawn. What does this threaten? My knight? But like I said, I'm just going to take his knight. Free piece. And if he takes our knight, I'm going to pin his rook, so he can't capture with check. Now he could take our pawn, but who cares? That actually lets us escape with our bishop. So he could have taken a piece, but now he just took a pawn, and we escape with our piece. And he can only move his bishop because his rook is pinned. His bishop is dark squared, so it can't help the pin piece. So That's the big weaknesses of bishops. Oops, I didn't mean to rematch him. I didn't mean to rematch him. Okay, and we got another game against Kiko Schmidt. So he opens up with e4. We're gonna go d6. Now he goes bishop c4, playing the bishop's opening. Hey, we develop the knight and attack his pawn. He goes d3 with the pawn chain, defending his pawn. We go g6 so we can fianchetto and get nice control over these dark squares that he is not putting his pawns on. He develops his queen very early. He clearly wants some type of attack where he kicks my knight moves, and he checkmates me. I think that's a little optimistic, but I guess we'll find out. I'm just gonna fianchetto my bishop where it x-rays a bunch of squares, so his power is nice. He goes h3. I'm assuming he's stopping ideas like this, but I'm not in a rush to play stuff like that anyway. We've seen the queen being misplaced here before because we have these knight jumps. We've had pretty much this exact position multiple times. So we develop our knight. There's no hurry to castle. And he immediately goes c3, saying, hey, you're not gonna jump in here, because if I did, it would hit his queen and the c2 pawn with a fork. So his queen would have to go back home to defend. So he says, no, you're not gonna do that, but it still lets me go here, which wins the bishop pair. So I'm gonna do that. And that's a free light square bishop. And things are looking good for black. Because we only have our pawns on the first 3 ranks, we have a little less space. Because we have a little less space, we want to trade some of our minor pieces to make sure that all of our minor pieces have really nice squares. That's the most important thing, to make sure your pieces have good squares. So he moves his queen back home anyway, which is what c3 was supposed to stop. But now we get to take the bishop, double his pawns, and what's the drawback of him recapturing? Undefends the central pawn. We're gonna scoop that bad boy up. Now we have the bishop pair and an extra pawn, and he has double pawns, and we're close to the castling. Doesn't get better than that. And he's 1332. So you guys who are much lower rated, you can do this. He goes knight f3. Logical, developing move. Prepares castling. It's our turn. We just castle. We have our win condition. We're already up our pawn. We're safe. We just need king safety, and we're good to go. So he castles. Now his king is safe. We need to continue our development. This bishop, potential squares here, here, here. Maybe even fianchetto. I'm not sure which one I like. I mean, I guess I'm just gonna go 1 square, see what he does, and then I'll always have the option of putting it on c6. Because if I fianchetto, it creates some light square weaknesses. I know the bishop is here covering it, and he doesn't have a light square bishop, so it's fine, but I mean, I can do it this way as well. So he moves his queen forward. This attacks the pawn and attacks the knight, so it looks like a double attack. You could try something like knight c5, but that walks into b4. Plus, we wanted to put our bishop here anyway. This asks for it with tempo. And now our bishop is on a very nice square. Looking directly down the diagonal of his king. And he doesn't have the equivalent bishop to contest ours. So he has to waste time going all the way back, setting up for next game. We're way better developed than him. Our position looks great. We just have to not run out of time. So, what are some of his ideas? I don't really know. So I'm going to continue developing. It's hard to get my rooks in the game because all the pawns are still on the board for me. So I'm going to make a little bit of space with a5. This just gives a little breathing room. I know it looks like a weird move, but it gives a little breathing room, right? It prevents ideas like b4, and it threatens to prevent it permanently by continuing to go a4, which is what I'm going to do, because now it gives me possibilities of rook lift, so I could develop my rook this way. He moves his knight, the only developed piece, he moves again instead of developing his other pieces, and he jumps to the center. I'm not going to take him, give him my good bishop and mess up and fix his pawn structure. That'd be terrible. But he is hitting my bishop. It doesn't matter if I make a move with my bishop again because he's so underdeveloped. It doesn't matter. I'm going to move it back because I'm the only one with a light square bishop. It touches a lot of squares. It's a good bishop. No reason to give it to him. And I could play c5 next, creating the dragon pawn structure, and then put the bishop back on c6 with the pawn on c5. So he attacks my knight. It's a one move threat. It's just a waste of time. He needs to be developing his lesser pieces. I'm going to move my knight out of the attack, and it looks at this b3 square, which I now have an a4 pawn supporting. So that would be a good square to jump into. Now I can't play c5, but now I can play e5 and kick the knight. So the bishop develops, stares at my knight, supports his knight, blocks the queen's thing for a second. We could again play e5. So let's just do that. We're going to kick his strongest piece out of the center and control some dark squares from his bishop. And now we can also plant our knight here, which should be fairly annoying for him since it's on a light square. I mean, maybe he can trade it with the other knight. Okay, so he goes back to where it came from. That's fine. If we want, we could even go e4 and let it go back and just say we got to play e5, e4 for free. That's possible. Now the bishop's hitting this knight, though. We don't want to ruin our structure like that. We could jump this way, but we're going to jump in here since I kind of can't help myself. I want this cubby hole. He obviously moves the rook, which was being attacked. That's move makes a lot of sense. And now we're going to put our bishop back where we wanted it on this beautiful diagonal. We're not going to play c5 because we played e5. So it was more like a one or the other thing. So instead of developing this knight and going for the trade, he goes the other way. Wastes a lot of time. Opens up my bishop's diagonal. And I'm going to let him take. Probably. Should I? Maybe I shouldn't. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't let him take, because then this guy can't develop. I'm going to move my knight back. And now this guy can't develop. And if he wants, he can go back. But my thing actually puts pressure on his position. So my knight moves. Okay, so instead he lashes out. But I have en passant here. So I'm going to do that, which opens up my rook. I don't care about the pawn. It's activating my rook. Now my rook is beautifully strong without moving. Isn't that a free piece? Suspicious. Free piece? Okay. So I had a good position before that I was trying to, finesse and figure out how to positionally win, but now I'm just up a piece. So he goes back, attacking my knight. Again, up a piece. I'm just going to move my knight, and back where it was and attack the pawn I was attacking. Right? No reason to do anything crazy. I just put it back where it was before I took the free piece. Now I have the bishop pair. I'm up a light square bishop. I'm up a pawn. I have one pawn island. He has three. So he moves the attack pawn and tries to say, hey, if I'm gonna lose it, let me do it this way. So that's fine. I'm going to ignore him and just jump, improve my knight. Since it's not good on the edge, it was only applying pressure to the pawn. The pawn moves, no more function on the edge, has to be improved. Knight to c4 comes with further trades, which are good for me. So he takes the pawn. We are going to take with the queen, develop the piece, connect our rooks, offer a queen trade. Bishop is still available. If he doesn't take the queen trade, maybe we go attack on the light squares. So he does take. We can take with the knight and keep our pawn structure, but I'm going to take with the pawn. He can't really attack this pawn with rooks because it's actually defended by the knight. You can't attack the knight because it's on light squares unless you attack it with another knight, so which is what he does. So he attacks my knight, but like I said, trades are good for me. But I'm going to take the bishop because bishop is just generally better than a knight, controls more squares. And now we have full control over the light squares. He is applying pressure here. If we look at this and think of it like a wave, the pawn structure, we're missing the wave. You see, this is like a hole. So we're going to fill the wave, fill the hole with water, and move it forward. He develops his knight, and it hits a pawn. I can pin the knight in either way to either rook. That's pretty funny. I guess I'll go this way. I guess the other way made more sense. Because when he moves the knight, you win the rook. Now when he moves the knight, the exchange. But either way. This is a clever try. But let's attack it. And now the rook's hanging too. Here is covered. So I guess c4 is, or a4. Probably a4. But that doesn't work. So it has to be c4 actually. But I'm up 4 points of material anyway, so losing an exchange obviously isn't good for him. Oh, and then he's gonna pin. That's interesting. I don't care. I'm up stuff, so I'll trade. Even though my bishop's better than his knight, I'm up so much material. Who cares? Now I just got to get my rook in the game. I'm completely winning. He can do whatever he wants. What? I was gonna lose this either way, but now I get to take stuff. And everything's hanging, which is nice. A nice benefit of messing up your opponent's pawn structure. Before I do anything, wait, why'd I do that? That doesn't even make sense. Never mind. I should have just developed my rook, so ignore me. But this is kind of funny. So it's like a troll move to see what he does. Okay, so he attacks a pawn. I don't want to defend it. I'm just going to take a pawn. Free pawn. He takes a pawn. Now this pawn's hanging. I stop him. Now he's going to give me a check. And try to double stack on the bishop. So check. I go here. But now his rook's hanging. So he doesn't have time. He would have to move this one down. Which he does. Am I like predicting my own demise? What's happening here? Oh, G5, big brain. Oh, because of rook G6, and now he has no attack. Oof, good thing I found that last second. I was I was finding moves for him, but not for me. It made no sense. So let me just take this and defend my pawn. Defend my rook. Move this up so I can unpin my bishop. Okay, now my rook is free, but I'm running out of time. Not the herb. Let's go here. Not sure why. Why did I do that actually? We defend. And now we double stack rooks for the ultimate defense. And then we push the e-pawn. And then I think Kiko is lights out. So no more pressure. And boom. We can even take this pawn. And go back and then push the h-pawn. With complete solidification. Cemento. Leiko knows. And now the rook's cut off the king. What to do for white? His one idea has been stifled. I'm going to get a queen because it's a check. So I don't have to calculate anything because it's a check. I have 39 seconds, so when in doubt, check. That looks strong. That's called a mating net. King can't move. But instead of taking with the queen checkmate, we're going to do the rook checkmate. Because he didn't see that one. So, many different checkmates. That's why you have to do your puzzles. Take that guy down. Some fun games. Good stuff. You can see how I play the Pirk. Hopefully it helps you. Submit your rapid games. Good luck.